The unforgettable disappearance of Megan Raley, Blowing Rock, North Carolina, 2012. On a bitter December evening in 2012, 22-year-old Megan Raley disappeared along a remote stretch of the Blue Ridge Parkway near Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Her car was still idling on the side of the road, the driver's door wide open. Her purse, phone, and coat were still inside. There were no signs of a struggle, no tracks in the snow, no sign of Megan, just a low hum of the engine, fading daylight, and a stillness that would settle into mountain air like a curse. Case file, BRPD 12-7421. Megan Elaine Raley was a recent graduate of Appalachian State University, known among friends and professors for her soft-spoken nature and sharp intellect. She majored in environmental science, with particular interest in forest ecosystems. She had planned to take a winter internship at the Grandfather Mountain Stewardship Foundation. She had been living temporarily in a small rented cabin off Holloway Ridge Road, 10 miles south of downtown Blowing Rock. Friends described Megan as contemplative and independent. She didn't shy away from solitude, but neither was she antisocial. She had a close circle of friends, stayed in regular contact with her mother and older brother, and often spent her weekends hiking the local trails or reading on the porch of her cabin, nestled deep among towering pines. She had no history of mental health issues, no known enemies, and no run-ins with law enforcement. Her life, by all outward appearances, was stable, if not entirely routine. But something shifted in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. According to one of her closest friends, Emily Hart, Megan had become increasingly withdrawn, more than usual. She canceled social plans, left text messages unread, and once failed to show up for a scheduled meeting with her internship coordinator without explanation. When asked about it, Megan had brushed it off, saying she was just tired and needed time to think. A journal later recovered from her cabin hinted at a mounting unease. Scrawled entries from early December contained cryptic lines. "I hear things at night, not animals, not wind. And there's something wrong with the trees by the trailhead. They don't feel right." Investigators would note these passages in the case report, but they amounted to little more than unnerving curiosities without further context. Timeline of disappearance, December 19th, 2012. On the day she vanished, Megan had visited a local cafe around 3 p.m. and chatted briefly with a barista, who later recalled that she seemed distracted but polite. She paid in cash, left a tip, and mentioned that she planned to go for a quick drive to clear her head. Around 4:15 p.m., a passing motorist reported seeing a white 2003 Subaru Outback parked awkwardly along a narrow Blue Ridge Parkway section near milepost 281. The vehicle was straddling the road's edge, passenger side tires pressed into a light snowbank. It was still running. When a park ranger arrived on the scene at 5:02 p.m., there was no sign of the driver. Megan's coat was folded neatly on the passenger seat. Her phone was still in the cup holder, showing no recent calls or messages. The only footprints visible in the snow led from the driver's side door about 6 feet toward the tree line, then vanished. No trail, no drag marks, no blood. Just one set of faint prints stopped abruptly at the edge of the woods, like she had stepped into nothing. A search was initiated within the hour. Local authorities, park rangers, and volunteers combed a 5-mile radius, employing K-9 units, thermal drones, and ground-penetrating radar. Helicopters were deployed by dawn, circling the dense, forested hillsides and rocky outcrops of the nearby Thunder Hill Overlook. But despite ideal tracking conditions, a fresh layer of snow and minimal wind, no additional traces of Megan were found. Case investigation and theories. Blowing Rock Police, working in tandem with the Watauga County Sheriff's Office and the National Park Service, opened an official missing person case that evening. Over the following weeks, more than 40 interviews were conducted with neighbors, classmates, and former professors. No one reported any unusual behavior beyond what had already been noted. There were no stalkers, disputes, or recent romantic entanglements. Surveillance footage from gas stations and businesses in the area showed Megan's Subaru heading south on Route 321 around 3:30 p.m. She was alone. No other vehicles consistently followed her, and there was no indication that she was being pursued or intercepted. Theories quickly began to circulate. Some believed she had wandered into the woods and succumbed to the elements, but seasoned trackers disputed that notion. They argued that if Megan had gotten lost or disoriented, there would have been signs. Broken branches, thermal traces, torn clothing, or at least additional footprints. Yet nothing was found, a drop glove or a footprint beyond that first frozen patch. Others speculated that she had staged her disappearance, but her bank accounts remained untouched. Her passport was still at the cabin, and none of her belongings were missing. There was no evidence that she had planned to leave or had any reason to. The most unsettling theory, however, involved a stretch of woods near where her vehicle was found. Locals in Blowing Rock have long told stories about that parkway section. They whispered warnings about a place called Deer Hollow, a densely wooded ravine near milepost 281, known for strange echoes and inexplicable silences. Some hikers claimed that GPS devices malfunctioned there. Others reported sudden dread, nausea, or disorientation, enough to turn seasoned outdoor enthusiasts back toward the road. While law enforcement never officially acknowledged these tales, search teams privately noted that their dogs became agitated when led into the hollow, refusing to advance past a certain point. One volunteer claimed to have heard Megan's voice calling faintly from within the trees on the second night of the search. But when they followed the sound, no one was there. In January 2013, a potential break came when a hiker found a torn scrap of paper lodged in the bark of a tree about 3 miles south of the search site. Written in ink, the note simply read, "It's not what you think." Handwriting analysis suggested a high likelihood that the note belonged to Megan, but no definitive match was ever confirmed. By spring, the case had gone cold. No new leads, no physical evidence. Megan's family, devastated but composed, offered a $25,000 reward for any information leading to her recovery. Her brother, Andrew Raley, made multiple public statements pleading for help, stating that Megan would never just walk away. The FBI became involved briefly in late 2013 under the possibility of interstate abduction, but after 6 months, the agency withdrew due to a lack of jurisdictional evidence. The case reverted to local law enforcement, which remains classified as an open missing persons investigation. More than a decade later, the trail near milepost 281 remains unchanged. The trees have grown denser, and snow still falls in early December. Megan's disappearance has become a fixture of local legend, a chilling story shared in hushed tones at campfires, in ranger stations, and among hikers passing through. Her cabin still stands, now vacant. Occasionally, curious visitors leave notes on the porch or small offerings beneath the pine that leans toward the window where she once read. A wind chime still hangs by the door, clinking faintly in the mountain air. Blowing Rock Police Department keeps the case file updated annually, filing it under active, no new leads. Each year, on the anniversary of her disappearance, Megan's mother places an ad in the Watauga Democrat that reads the same: "We have not forgotten you. We never will." And as winter descends on the Blue Ridge again, the silence near Deer Hollow lingers. December 19, 2012, began like any other brisk winter day in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Temperatures hovered below freezing, and a thin, dry snow blanketed the higher elevations outside Blowing Rock. The sharp, biting wind broke silence through the dense evergreens lining the Blue Ridge Parkway. Megan Raley, 22, was last definitively seen that afternoon. Her movements during the hours leading up to her disappearance have since been reconstructed through a mix of surveillance footage, digital forensics, and eyewitness testimony. 9:34 a.m. Phone call to mother. Megan called her mother, Carol Raley, from her cabin south of Holloway Ridge Road. Call duration, 14 minutes. Content summary. Per Carol's statement, Megan sounded a little tired, maybe distracted, but not distressed. She spoke about the cold weather, mentioned finishing a new book, and said she had errands to run later. When asked about her upcoming internship, Megan said she was looking forward to the quiet. Carol reported nothing alarming, though she did note that her daughter paused a few times as if listening to something in the background. 11:07 a.m., groceries and gas. Megan was seen on CCTV footage at the Mountain Crest Market along Highway 221. She purchased a water bottle, granola bars, and a single serving pack of ibuprofen. wore a gray fleece jacket, jeans, and hiking boots. Her hair was tied back, and she seemed calm but quiet. She exchanged a few words with the cashier, who later told investigators Megan asked if there were any recent closures on the parkway. The cashier thought it was odd, as weather conditions that day were clear, and no closures had been reported. 12:41 p.m., email from internship coordinator. Megan received an email from Anna Whitley, her internship supervisor at the Grandfather Mountain Stewardship Foundation. The email was a routine check-in regarding her January schedule. Megan never opened it. Phone records show no outgoing calls or texts after 12:43 p.m. 2:53 p.m., local cafe sighting. A confirmed sighting came from Blue Pines Cafe on Main Street, where Megan arrived shortly before 3 p.m. She ordered a black coffee and sat by the window. The barista, 19-year-old Calvin York, remembered her because she asked if there were any trailheads that didn't get a lot of traffic this time of year. Calvin suggested a few well-known paths, but mentioned that most were quiet during winter. Megan nodded, paid in cash, and left without finishing her drink. According to Calvin, her demeanor was polite but preoccupied, like she was going somewhere important. 3:32 p.m., vehicle seen heading south. Traffic cam footage captured Megan's white 2003 Subaru Outback traveling south on Route 321, merging onto the Blue Ridge Parkway via the Holloway Ridge exit. She was alone. Her car moved at a normal speed, and no other vehicle was seen following closely. The footage marks the last confirmed sighting of Megan Raley alive. 4:16 p.m., vehicle discovered abandoned. At 4:16 p.m., a local photographer named Darren Reese pulled off the parkway near milepost 281 to take pictures of the early winter snowfall. He spotted Megan's vehicle parked awkwardly on the shoulder, still running, headlights on. The door was cracked open. Looked like someone had just stepped out. No one was around. Reese took a photo of the scene, later submitted to investigators, before calling park rangers to report a possible stranded motorist. 5:02 p.m., law enforcement arrives. Park Ranger Claudia Vance arrived at 5:02 p.m. The Subaru's engine was still running and the heat was on. The driver's door was open just enough to suggest someone had exited quickly, but not forcefully. No purse was visible, but Megan's phone was in the cup holder, and her fleece jacket lay folded on the passenger seat. Ranger Vance described a surreal stillness. It didn't look like she'd panicked. No signs of a struggle. Just gone. The only prints in the shallow snow led from the car about 6 feet into the tree line, and stopped. Stopped. No scuff marks. No return prints, as if she had simply vanished. 5:18 p.m., search initiated. Within 30 minutes of Ranger Vance's discovery, local law enforcement from the Blowing Rock Police Department, BRPD, the Watauga County Sheriff's Office, and a volunteer mountain rescue unit initiated an immediate area search. Drones with thermal imaging were deployed just after 6 p.m. Dogs were brought in by 7:15 p.m. The K-9 units picked up Megan, sent briefly near the tree line, but lost it almost immediately, an unusual detail that handlers noted in their logs. Search report excerpt case ID BRPD 12-7421. Initial ground search yielded no evidence of the subject beyond the point of egress from the vehicle. No drag marks, no secondary prints. Dogs lost the trail within 30 to 40 seconds of acquisition. Possible environmental interference, wind/snow drift, noted but not confirmed. December 20th to 24th, 2012, the mountain search. Over the next 5 days, search teams expanded to a 5-mile radius around milepost 281. They covered dense terrain, including rocky ravines, creeks, and thick forest underbrush. Helicopters flew low sweeps across nearby Deer Hollow and Thunder Hill. Divers were brought in to examine ice-covered ponds. Nothing was found. The only discovery was strange. An old leather-bound journal in a hollowed log about half a mile from the car. The pages were warped with moisture, and most entries appeared decades old. But in the back were newer additions, cryptic phrases like, "The silence follows me. They see when you step off the path." Investigators could not tie the journal to Megan. It remains in the BRPD evidence locker, tagged as Item 56 Amar. Family response and media attention. Carol and Andrew Raley flew to Blowing Rock the morning after Megan's disappearance, visibly shaken. They held a brief press conference outside the sheriff's office. Carol Raley, she's not the type to run. Something happened. Please, if you know anything, say something. The case quickly made local headlines, and regional news outlets picked up the story. The Asheville Times and Winston-Salem Journal ran feature stories. National coverage followed in January, with a brief segment on CNN's Headline Prime. Still, no new leads emerged. The Raleys offered a $25,000 reward. Flyers were distributed across western North Carolina. Investigators reviewed and preserved Megan's social media accounts. There were no threats or strange messages. Red herring 1, suspicious witness report. On December 23rd, a man named Lyle Hornbeck contacted police, claiming he saw a woman matching Megan's description, hitchhiking near Foothills Highway, about 20 miles south. He said she looked cold and disoriented, but declined a ride. Investigators followed up and reviewed traffic cams in the area. No footage confirmed the sighting, and a gas station attendant who was working at the time said they saw no one fitting Megan's description. The lead was closed as unsubstantiated. Red herring 2, the other Megan. On December 29th, a woman in Charlotte reported being followed by a man claiming to be looking for Megan. She said he showed her a photo and claimed they were engaged. When she refused to speak with him, he left. The man, identified as Thomas Keel, had a history of mental illness and stalking unrelated individuals. The photo he showed was a random woman from a magazine clipping, N.T. Megan. Keel was taken in for questioning, but was deemed unrelated to the Raley case. Police statements and internal frustrations. BRPD Chief Harold Winters admitted to the press in early January. It's rare that someone vanishes with so little evidence. We've ruled out foul play, but we're not ruling out anything else yet. Privately, officers were baffled. No signs of trauma. No signs of struggle. No known motive. Detective Lisa Morales, assigned lead on the case, told a local podcast in 2015, if it wasn't someone who took her, then what? The wind? The woods? It still bothers me. A theory began circulating among locals, one too old for police reports but alive in the region's oral tradition. The area near milepost 281 was once the site of several missing persons cases in the 1960s and 70s, including 2 hikers in 1974 and a ranger's daughter in 1982, all unsolved. Some longtime residents call it the Fade, an unofficial name for disappearances with similar eerie hallmarks. No signs of struggle, no return footprints, no trace. Local hiker forums still feel uneasy about Megan's disappearance, warning new visitors to avoid stepping off a trail near Deer Hollow. As the winter of 2013 gave way to spring, the ground thawed and the snows receded. But Megan Raley did not return. There was no body, no belongings, no goodbye. The last entry in her recovered journal, scribbled hastily in black ink, read simply, "If I go missing, I didn't mean to," and then silence. Over a decade has passed since 22-year-old Megan Raley stepped out of a running Subaru along a quiet stretch of the Blue Ridge Parkway and vanished without a trace. Her disappearance, officially cataloged under BRPD Missing Persons File hashtag 12-7421, R, remains unsolved. No definitive explanation has surfaced despite search parties, media coverage, and exhaustive interviews. But theories persist. Some are grounded in facts and probability. Others drift into speculation, folklore, or the unknown. Let's walk through the 3 most widely discussed possibilities. What might have happened to Megan Raley on that frigid afternoon in December 2012? Theory 1, voluntary disappearance, a carefully planned escape. This is the one most grounded in earthly logic of the 3 possibilities. Investigators initially entertained the idea that Megan may have chosen to disappear. A young woman, introspective by nature, newly graduated, facing adult responsibilities and expectations. Was it all too much? Support for the theory. Megan had expressed a desire for solitude on more than one occasion. In journals in her apartment, she wrote about her discomfort with modern life, the pressures of post-college existence, and the numbing noise of social media. Her friends recall she often fantasized about getting off the grid, Sometimes I wonder what it'd be like to walk away. One entry from October 2012 reads, "To disappear not because I'm lost, but because I'm finally found." She had no significant debts, no legal issues, and no strong digital footprint. Almost no online presence apart from occasional photos shared by friends. She didn't drive much. She rarely posted. She didn't even carry her phone regularly. The day she vanished, Megan left very few personal items in the car. No purse or identification. Her phone was left in the cup holder. But that's just it. Her phone was left behind. Her fleece jacket, too, lay neatly folded on the passenger seat despite temperatures below 30 degrees Fahrenheit. That detail stands out. Who voluntarily walks into the woods in December without their coat? If she did plan to disappear, it was meticulously done. There were no financial transactions, confirmed sightings, or new social security or employment records under her name or known aliases. At least none tied to her by the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, NAMUS. The FBI eventually ruled out foreign travel. Her passport had not been used, and there were no reports of border crossings. Still, could she have assumed another identity, living off cash, relying on small rural communities or off-grid enclaves? Stranger things have happened. Megan had the intelligence and resolve to pull it off. But the question remains, why leave her family with no closure? Why not a note, a goodbye, a clue? The silence cast doubt on this theory for many. Counterpoints. No indication that Egan was suicidal or emotionally unstable. No purchases or supplies were made that indicated long-term travel or survival prep. No evidence of online activity or new identity registrations. Leaving a coat behind in freezing temperatures challenges the logic of voluntary disappearance. If she ran cold, quiet, and deep. Theory 2, abduction, the sudden interruption. Perhaps the most chilling and most plausible theory is that Megan was abducted. This idea gained traction early in the investigation and still dominates law enforcement hypotheses today. Support for the theory. Megan's car was found still running. The driver's door was slightly ajar, suggesting a hasty exit. No signs of struggle, but also no reason for her to leave the car in such a vulnerable way. In sub-freezing temperatures, with darkness approaching, what would compel a young woman to step into the forest alone? Some believe she never got far. Someone may have followed her from a café or waited along that desolate stretch of road. Park Ranger Claudia Vance noted that the car's position seemed off, angled toward the woods, parked near an old pull-off that locals say rarely sees use. Then there's the matter of the footsteps. Tracks in the snow led from the car toward the trees, but they ended suddenly after just a few yards. There were no return prints, no drag marks, and it just stopped. Could she have been intercepted? A disturbing possibility involves a passing vehicle. The Blue Ridge Parkway sees less traffic in winter, especially midweek. Someone with local knowledge could have easily tracked her movements by waiting until she pulled off and striking when no one else was around. Serial offenders often target secluded areas. The parkway's terrain, dips, blind curves, and remote lay-bys makes for ideal ambush points. Could a predator have been hunting? Though never confirmed. There were whispers that a white utility van had been spotted by a trail hiker, loitering near the same pull-off days prior. A few anonymous tips referred to a creepy guy with a camera in the area, but none led to credible suspects. To this day, there's no physical evidence of abduction, no tire tracks, no fingerprints, no eyewitnesses. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Detective Lisa Morales, who has followed the case for years, remains open to theory. It's hard to ignore how fast it happened. One minute she's in a warm car, next she's vanished. If someone took her, they were in and out in seconds. Red flag supporting abduction. Running vehicle with driver's door ajar. No signs of struggle, yet the disappearance occurred in broad daylight. No scent trail past 6 feet from the vehicle. No personal effects taken except Megan herself. Still, the lack of ransom communication or sightings frustrates the theory. Most abductions leave crumbs, but this one left silence. Theory 3, the unnatural, something beyond explanation. Some will not entertain this idea, but others, especially locals, will not dismiss it so easily. The woods around Blowing Rock have long been associated with strange stories and theories rooted not in crime or escape, but in something older they call the Fade. There have been whispers of disappearances near Holloway Ridge stretching back decades. Cases with similar patterns. Sudden silence, no evidence, no return. In 1974, 2 hikers vanished from the same region without a trace. In 1982, the daughter of a local ranger reportedly disappeared while gathering pine cones near her family's cabin. Her shoes were found beside a tree. Nothing else. Megan's case shares those same marks. Quiet departure, vanishing footprints, and no physical evidence. The journal found a half-mile from her car contains disturbing, cryptic entries, some appearing to be from different decades. The woods are a throat, and we are the song it swallows. Don't listen to the knocking. If it answers back, it's not you. The silence follows me. Investigators never confirmed that Megan's journal belonged to her. Her fingerprints weren't found on it, but the newest pages were written in the same ink she used in her apartment notebooks. Some believe Megan stumbled into a place she wasn't meant to be. Locals talk of thin places, where the veil between the known and unknown grows thin. People disappear not because they're taken, but because something lets them in and doesn't let them leave. It's a theory born of fear and folklore, but it makes more sense for some than a ghost car and 6 feet of vanishing footprints. Supporting anomalies, footprints ending mid-snow. Dogs lose their luster within seconds. No signs of exit trail, clothing, or remains. The inexplicable journal and its cryptic warnings. Of course, there's no proof. No science to back this theory, but it's the one that haunts the deepest, because it suggests Megan isn't gone in the traditional sense. She's simply elsewhere. A lingering mystery. Today, Megan Raley's file remains open but inactive. The Blue Ridge Parkway still draws hikers, campers, and curious visitors, but fewer near milepost 281. The pull-off where a car was found is unmarked. Some say they feel watch there. Others refuse to stop at all. Her family visits the area every December. They hold a quiet vigil under the evergreens. A memorial stone rests near the site, engraved with the words, "Come home to us, Megan. We're still listening." Despite over a decade of searching, there's been no trace. No answers. Only questions. Was it a planned escape? A calculated retreat into the wilderness to find peace? Was it a crime? An abduction committed so cleanly it left no clues? Or was it something else entirely? Something the woods aren't ready to give back? What do you think happened to Megan Raley? Was it a tragic accident? A carefully orchestrated disappearance? Or something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for more content exploring the eerie, the unexplained, and the tragic tales that continue to haunt the missing.